on all the speculation about 300ths of a second or whatever else we were arguing about all weekend, or you guys were arguing about all weekend. That was fun. So
I do think that it is kind of funny because you guys are obviously, you live in the college football space. You guys do so much of the groundwork when it comes to like our early big boards and everything at the beginning of the summer before even I can get to it, because you guys have seen so much of these guys in college football. So I'm sure it's extra fun for you guys when people finally get around to prospects in like February and March that you guys have known about since like August and September. I'm sure that only makes it even better this time of year.
It's gonna be the best, Trev, next February, and people are like, wow, this Jeremiah Smith guy's really good. And it's like, yeah, well, been that way for 3 years now, if not his entire life. So yeah, it's pretty fun time of year. But I'm with you, Trevor. I think the combine is also a huge time where prospects move up and down in the NFL draft, more so I think than even the Senior Bowl and all that. And obviously post free agency, we'll get a lot more clarity on what team needs actually are. But yeah, this is also, I think, a huge. This one might shake up a lot of the draft order for the top of the draft.
I think so too. At least we get a clearer picture of, I think, what NFL teams believe of these prospects, which is what I think changes the most when it comes to a lot of these mock draft selections. So we're going to talk about a ton of things here on this show. You guys can follow along if you have a PFF Plus subscription. That's the best way to do that. And of course, you can mirror what we're doing or do your own mock drafts over at pff.com/mock as we bring up the mock draft simulator. We're going 32 picks up, 32 picks down. Guys, do you have a preference on the order? Who starts what?
I want Dalton to pick second for the Jets, just to see what he does for his New York Jets. That's what I want personally. I'm good with either first or third.
I almost wanted the Jets to be you, Max, just so I could see you do this.
Drew Aller.
You would be looking at the camera and you would be sort of explaining your pick, but then you'd be going like this.
Yeah, like eyeing Dalton, make sure he's not going to strangle me.
The last time we did this,
all whatsoever.
The last time we did this, as usual, you got it completely wrong.
Arvell Reese and Ty Simpson. Maybe how about Arvell Reese and Drew Aller? How about that? Drew Aller back in the first round conversation.
We could just start now. I'll pick second. You guys settled that. Who's getting the freebie at number one?
Okay. I'll take the freebie if you want, Trevor. I'm interested in what you do.
Go ahead. You take the freebie at number one. Fernando Mendoza, which the only thing notable to talk about in the week is he showed up at 236 pounds.
Yeah.
I didn't know he had that in him. Like when I watched him at Cal, it's kind of hard to get over first impressions sometimes. I felt like he was just this, long and lean type of a quarterback, sort of the way that Jared Goff was built, more so when Jared Goff was at Cal, not as much when he's in the NFL because he's put on a little bit of extra weight to have a little bit more strength to him. But when he was at Cal, he was a very lean, long quarterback prospect, and I felt that was the same way of Fernando Mendoza. Very clearly, young man's been in the room. He's been in the gym. He's been getting a lot bigger. So weighing in at 236, I think is great for him. So it didn't really do anything else at the combine, but I did think that showing up that way was good.
Yeah, I agree with that. There were rumors that he had added some weight last offseason in preparation to play at Indiana, and I think he did look a little bit thicker. When you look at him, compared to a couple of years ago at Cal, and you mentioned it, he was very lean. He was kind of skinny, kind of figuring it out. But at 236, I'm with you. I did not expect him to weigh that much. He's got great size to him. We know he's got at least probably a B-plus arm, and the accuracy was off the charts this year. So post-combine, nothing changes. Mendoza going first. That leaves me number two here with the Jets. And I think with the trade of Jermaine Johnson for T'Vondre Sweat, which to me I actually really like from the Jets angle. I think it makes the run defense a lot better. And, obviously we got to wait a couple of years probably to see who really won this trade. But I like that trade from the Jets side. To me, it signals clearly that they're taking an edge rusher. I don't think it's going to be Caleb Downs, for as much as I wouldn't hate that. I just think they're going to value an edge rusher over a safety. They're going to take a defensive end in all likelihood. I still think we're going to get this arm length controversy over Ruben Bain. He came in under 31 inches at the combine. I at this point think this pick is probably down to two guys. It's David Bailey or it's Arvell Reese. I'm going to go with David Bailey from Texas Tech. I mean, if we're looking for just a pure, proven pass rusher, a guy who's led the nation in pass rush grade in each of the past two seasons, I understand Arvell Reese has all the talent. I still think there's a chance that his value could be better as a hybrid player or as a true off-ball linebacker. And you mentioned it, what was it, roughly a 13% pass rush win rate this past year. Just unproven. I would rather go with a proven pass rusher, build this defensive line with a known commodity. I'm going to go right now with David Bailey, number two to the Jets.
Yeah, I think, like you said, there's a couple of different guys you kind of think about here at this spot, but it does feel like they're narrowing it down a little bit more, especially with the trade that they just made. It feels like it's going to be a little bit more of a stand-up outside linebacker type. So to me, it kind of just comes down to who they prefer, which it makes things interesting for the Cardinals at number 3 because, do you consider a player like Arvell Reese? I'm not so sure given the depth that they have at edge pass rusher. I know the defense got to be a little bit better, but guys, I think that I'm not going to pick Sonny Styles here, although I do want to talk about it. Like I went into the week of the Combine thinking, all right, Sonny Styles' range, to be honest with you, probably starts at number 5, as high as number 5 overall to the New York Giants. With the way that he tested, the way that people talked about him, and the way that I think he's going to be viewed in a draft class where a positional value is going to be less of a talking point throughout, I think, the entire draft, I think his draft range genuinely starts at 2. I don't know if he's going to be the pick for the Jets at number 2, but I think he's in the conversation for a player that they would consider there. I think the same maybe at number 3 overall here with the Cardinals. I think perhaps the same with Robert Saleh and the Tennessee Titans at number 4. All of that to say, I am going to take Francis Mauigoa, the offensive tackle from Miami, because the more I think about it, the more I think that this is actually what the Cardinals want to do. They want to pick up another offensive lineman, and I don't know if it's going to be here at number 3. With as good as the defensive players tested in Indy, I feel as though there's a chance they might get a partner to trade back a little bit. But I think what they want to do, I think what Monty Office-Support wants to do is he wants to do similar to what he did with Paris Johnson Jr., where he traded back up, but he got a couple of extra draft picks while getting the guy that he wanted all along. I think that's that same game plan this year. But either way, I think Mauigoa is going to be that first offensive tackle on the board, even with a little bit shorter arm length and wingspan, but we expected that from him. You get him at right tackle, and I think you set things up really well to turn the rest of that offense around once you figure out who your long-term answer at quarterback is. So I'm going to go Mauigoa here for the Cardinals at 3 still.
I can't hate it at all. I mean, Mauigoa was fantastic this past year at Miami, one of the best tackles in the country. And, he measured in. Obviously, the arm length wasn't the best, but also wasn't as bad as Spencer Fano either. So I think Mauigoa right now is probably the best pure tackle for almost every team in the NFL draft right now. For an Arizona team that needs a right tackle opposite of Paris Johnson Jr., it makes a ton of sense right there. Titans is tough. I'm actually between 3 players right now, but I really think it's down to 2, and it's both Ohio State linebackers in Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles. Obviously, they traded for Jermaine Johnson, so the edge need is not as dire as it once was, but I still think it is. I'm gonna lean Arvell. It's tough. I'm going to go with Arvell Reese here. I still think he's going to get drafted somewhere in the top 5 of this draft. Sonny Styles was very, very close to being the pick because, Trev, like you pointed out in your mock draft, they're apparently reportedly one of the teams interested in Tremaine Edmonds, the linebacker for the Bears. If that's the case, then Sonny Styles is absolutely on the board here at number 4 overall if they can't get Tremaine Edmonds. So I know they just traded for Jermaine Johnson, but I still think they need an edge rusher, and they also need help at linebacker, and I think Arvell Reese will still go somewhere in the top 5 of this draft. So it was between him or his teammate Sonny Styles. I'm going to go with Arvell Reese here to the Titans.
Yeah, Dalton, I'm curious kind of what you think about this with Arvell Reese, just now that we're going through it from a mock draft perspective. We talked about it a little bit last week when we were in Indy when Arvell Reese sort of announces hey, I want to be viewed as an edge rusher. I want to be viewed as an edge rusher, an outside linebacker type. And to me, that clouds his projection more than it gives him answers. I know a lot of people liked him more as an edge, but I'm going to be honest. I liked his movement skills, especially in the on-field drills, even after the athletic testing. In the on-field drills, he looks like an off-ball linebacker. He looks like a player who, I've said this before with Arvell Reese. Right now in his current form, he reminds me a lot of Edgerrin Cooper. Just the way that he moves, how explosive he is to change direction, how he could put his foot in the ground in an instant and just get upfield or change which direction he is going. The hit power, all of that stuff is just reminiscent of how good and how much range Edgerrin Cooper has as an off-ball linebacker, how valuable he's been to the Packers, and I think he'll be even more valuable for them moving forward because it doesn't feel like they're going to bring back Quay Walker. But I liked him in that role, but it just doesn't seem like, whether it's agent-driven or what, that he's going to play there. So any thoughts overall there before we move on to you picking for the Giants?
I think you're right. I think it's definitely about getting that positional designation there because we know down the line edge rushers make more money than linebackers do. So I think they're kind of looking in the future a little bit, but it does it does muddy up the projection just a little bit. You mentioned he's not the most proven pass rusher among this group, right? The athleticism tells you he can possibly do it, but it's going to take some time. I still wonder wonder if Reuben Bain would be on the board for Tennessee if they have this big of an edge need as a more proven edge rusher, even though obviously he came in with the short arms, and there's going to be, again, talks about that and where he goes. But I think we're going to know a lot more about Tennessee's intentions in a couple weeks here after free agency. Is there going to be a need at linebacker? Do they have a need, maybe at corner, and they want to trade out of this pick, right? Do they want an edge rusher? I think if David Bailey were on the board, I think he would be the home run pick. I think he'd be the guy that Robert Saleh really wants. But I think the idea of Reese being there for now, knowing that situation is fluid, makes a lot of sense.
So who you got number 5 here?
Oh, number 5 with the New York Giants. I do. Mauanoa being off the board makes me, it kind of opens things up a little bit. It could be Styles. I'm feeling like it's either Styles or a wide receiver here. And I think with what we just saw at the Combine and the Giants really needing to fix this run defense, I think they could dig into receiver on day 2. I'm going to go with Sonny Styles. Obviously, had one of the most impressive Combines out of any player here. What was it, 4.46 officially on the 40? Just ridiculous at his size, 6'5", former safety. And I just think he's the type of player in the middle of their defense they were missing next to Bobby Okereke at linebacker. I like Micah McFadden, but more as a rotational or a backup type player. I think it's entirely possible. I don't think Styles is getting by 7 at Washington. If he gets to Washington, I think that's where he's going. But I'm going to put him in the top 5 here right after his Ohio State teammate to the New York Giants.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting one at 5 because I think it's a little bit of the same conversation at 6 when it comes to Carnell Tate potentially being that top wide receiver. Max and I talked about this on the recap show, whatever it was, yesterday or the day before. With Carnell Tate, I don't really care that he ran a 4.53 40-yard dash. It doesn't really change anything for me. I always had some little question marks when it came to overall athleticism with him, but very clearly on his tape, he's able to go out there and make the most of it and still be a great vertical receiver, especially when you pair it with the contested catch stuff. He's just not as much of a burner as maybe some of these other receivers in this class, which is totally okay. So I don't think that this situation with Tate is one where you're really punishing him for it. I just feel as though it was a missed opportunity because with Lemon not testing him, with Tyson not testing at all, if Tate would have run something close to a 4.4 flat, I think basically everybody and their mother would have just been like, oh yeah, he's wide receiver 1, no question about it. He's going 5 or 6 in this draft. And he might still anyways. But I think he's just now, because he didn't test great and he ran over a 4 or 5 flat, it's more of a situation where we're just going to continue to talk about these wide receivers in either a big 3 or maybe just between him and Mekhi Lemon for wide receiver 1. I'm not going to take him here at number 6. I think there's too many good wide receivers in this class, and I don't think that there's enough offensive linemen for you to really just overlook that need, even with them trading for Titus Howard this morning. Man.
Well, you're really reluctant. I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, I know. If you're going off your mock draft today.
Actually, what I was thinking about that kind of tripped me up here is the Titus Howard trade. I was like, oh, well, you could just play Titus Howard at guard. But they didn't make that trade and sign him to that extension to play guard. They're going to play him at tackle. So I guess I am going to go Carnell Tate here at 6.
Okay.
I guess I am going to go wide receiver. I don't. If they still had offensive tackle on the board, I'm kind of just thinking through it out loud here with you guys. If offensive tackle was still an option for them, I feel like they would take the offensive tackle. Monroe Freeling is the guy who's been a major riser throughout the last week, tested very athletically. He's got the big frame to play offensive tackle. I am a little wary of picking him in the top 10, even for as athletic as he is, but if you're the Browns, I think the reason why you make the trade for Titus Howard is, 1, you're going to play him at the offensive tackle spot, and then 2, you feel like you've got flexibility to add offensive guard later in the draft. So instead, I guess so. Give me Tate here at number 6. I didn't love it over an offensive tackle option, but if they don't feel like they have an offensive tackle need anymore after that trade, I guess I'll take the wide receiver here.
Yeah.
I think in some order, that's always been the reasonable play for the Browns. And you're right, the Titus Howard trade makes it interesting because he's going to play right tackle for them. And I think the problem with the offensive line class here that we have is that there's just not that many tried and true left tackles, right? You think about Monroe Freeling, like you mentioned. You think about Caden Proctor, and even there's questions about him. And then maybe with that 24th pick, I'm sure Caleb Lomu's probably going to be a target for you there. It's going to be fun to watch how many free agents the Browns add on this offensive line, because they're going to have to, right? I mean, Titus Howard is the first step in that with the trade that they made, but they're going to have to add at least probably 3 more veterans just to fill the room out. But I would still think they're going to take an offensive lineman in round 1. The problem is, again, there's just not that many left tackles. Like, if Mauanoa were on the board, would they really trust him to flip sides and do that? I don't know. You know, there's some other options here, like Spencer Fano, really starting to look like he's going to move to the interior. Now, I don't think they'll take an interior lineman at 6 overall, but you know, the Browns, there's definitely a lot of options. They're another one where it's going to be more cleared up a couple weeks from now after free agency.
Yeah, and maybe at the end of the day, Freeling does still manifest himself as a 6th overall pick. It's just fresh off of that trade. I'm just very curious to how they're going to go about free agency now and who they're going to bring back, who they're not, who they might sign, all that kinds of stuff. So we'll leave offensive line for probably later in the first round here, and we'll go Carnell Tate here at 6.
Low moving cost too, Trev, for the Cleveland Browns.
Very true. You love that.
Which, by the way, that brings me here to number 7. And I actually tweeted this out during the Combine. I said Caleb Downs is probably the best player in the draft, but he's probably going to be the 4th Ohio State player taken in the draft. I don't think I'm going to take him here, actually, though, to the Commanders. I could go with him here at 7. I am going to go with Reuben Bain Jr., though, the edge rusher out of Miami. I still think he falls somewhere in the top 10, even with the arm length concerns. I thought he was the best defensive player in college football this past year. Led the nation in pressures, was top 10 in run defense grade as well, and he was terrific as a true freshman at Miami, and then kind of banged up as a sophomore. But I still think he's worth a top 10 pick, if not a top 5 pick in this draft. Arm length be damned. And I get it is a concern for him right now, but for a Commanders team that needs star power on their defense, I mean, it's kind of a dream scenario for them right now with both Bain and Downs on the board for them. I will go with Bain as of right now. I think they will prioritize edge rusher over safety if it comes down to it. So I'll go with him here, but I did consider making it 4 straight Ohio State Buckeyes in the top 7 of this draft.
Crazy defense. So insanely talented.
Number 8, New Orleans. See, the other pick that I think is a dark horse here for Washington there is the guy that I'm about to take at number 8 for the Saints. Trev, you know I'm a big fan of this. You know I think the Saints really need to jumpstart their run game. And look, I think part of this, too, is positional scarcity, right? When you talk about there being a greater depth of wide receiver, I know the Saints need another weapon, but I think we can find that on day 2. Jeremiah Love is so clearly the best running back in this class. He's been the best running back in college football. You could argue for the last 2 years. Obviously, we had Ashton Ginty last year, but this past year, no question about it, the best back in college football. The home run ability that he would add to one of the least explosive run games in football. Kellen Moore is going to want to run the ball. I think he's going to want an explosive playmaker with this 8th overall pick, regardless of where it is. But Lemon not testing, Tyson not testing. I don't think we're as sure about those guys in the NFL right now, and they're great players. They're going to go in the top 20 of this draft, but we seem pretty sure that Jeremiah Love's going to be a superstar. Goes out and runs a 4.36 in the 40 this weekend. I'm going to go with him to jumpstart this Saints run game and add balance with Tyler Shuck in that offense.
I like the pick. I think that we're getting closer and closer to that manifesting itself to a reality, which is very funny because I believe Christian McCaffrey went 8 overall in his draft. Bijan Robinson went 8 overall in his draft. Jeremiah Love could go number 8 overall in this draft. 8's just like the spot, you know. 8's just the spot for running backs. If you want
all
pro running backs too.
And all in the NFC South.
Oh, true. Well, yeah.
True.
It's tradition. Now we just got to get the Bucs to do it at some point.
Nah, we got Bucky. We're good. Chiefs. You know, I think about this is me, right?
Yep.
I did math correctly.
Yeah.
I think about Caleb Banks here because I think he was one of the big winners at the Combine. I think he's been one of the big winners to just the overall draft season. But the tape that you saw from him in 2024 was that of a player with a lot of really great flashes, but not exactly somebody who is a constant finisher, even if he did the hard work to get into the backfield. His best plays are as good as it gets from a defensive tackle, and he's 95th percentile and above basically in everything: height, weight, arm length, wingspan. He had the longest wingspan of any defensive tackle at the combine since 1999. Really good explosive scores as well, above the 80th and 90th percentile when it came to the vertical jump and the broad jump. It's just a crazy big athlete that perhaps the Chiefs take a chance on here. Does the injury this past season and the lack of overall snaps, does that present an issue for them? I'm just kind of weighing out the pros and cons here.
They took Josh Simmons with the same concern, so they clearly talent.
But Josh Simmons was, he missed some time due to injury, and then he missed some time obviously being away from the team, and so like availability I think is important. And sometimes if you have to go through that lesson recently, it keeps you from picking guys who might be more susceptible to missing some time. If it's not Caleb Banks though, I'm trying to convince myself of like who else would it be. Maybe it's Monroe Freeling, right? Maybe it's offensive tackle, given the fact that they're moving on from Juwan Taylor. Dalton, your eyes perked up. Do you have a suggestion here at number 9?
Is it just best player available?
No.
And with Brian Cook a free agent, would they just go with Caleb Downs and go, we've got another chess piece in the secondary?
Maybe, but they do have Jaden Hicks, who I feel like they've been higher on, and they had really high hopes on to come in and be that starter for them. Obviously, you've got like Mansour Delane and Jermon McCoy if you've got a big corner need, but they did just draft Noel Williams last year as well, who I felt like played pretty strong for them in that system. I thought about tight end for a second, like with a Kenyon Sadiq to get behind Travis Kelce, but even with Sadiq's combine week, I'm not convinced that he's going in the top 10. I'll take Caleb Banks. I'm kind of, there's pros and cons to him, but I don't really know if there's a better option here for the Chiefs, and they're really just going to try to chase the ceiling with him, pair him with Chris Jones, be incredibly disruptive up front at both defensive tackle spots and even defensive end spots. Of course, both of those guys can play defensive end as well with their explosiveness and their length. So, and that combination on the D-line and what Spags likes to do, pairing that with George Karlaftis as well, you feel pretty good about that. So let's go Caleb Banks here at number 9.
And a great mentor to learn from with Chris Jones too, which is kind of like another massive defensive tackle. If anyone's going to unlock Caleb Banks and how good his potential can be, as Chris Jones as a mentor for him. So I kind of love that pairing too for Kansas City. I'm sprinting this card in at 10 here for the Cincinnati Bengals. It's Caleb Downs, the safety. Dalton, you already pressed it before I even said it. I think he knew. I mean, Cincinnati, Trev, since they let Jesse Bates walk a few years ago, they've had the lowest graded group of safeties in the NFL since Bates left for the Falcons. So I think Caleb Downs is the easy choice here at 10. I think he's a dream pick for Cincinnati at number 10 overall as well. I think he's one of the best safety prospects we've seen in recent memory, up there with Derwin James and Kyle Hamilton and those kind of guys. And obviously those kind of guys hit in the NFL too. So I think Caleb Downs, he is the 4th Ohio State player taken, but you can argue he is the best player overall in this draft.
I agree. Go ahead.
No. You go ahead.
I think if we're assuming that both Ohio State linebackers are going before this pick, right? I think in free agency, linebacker becomes a big area of focus for the Bengals. I would go big fish hunting there when you talk about Devin Lloyd, you talk about Nakobe Dean, Leo Chenal. If I'm the Bengals, I'm attacking linebacker in free agency. The depth of defensive line in this draft, you can attack that on day 2 and even day 3 and feel good about what direction you're going in there. They don't have an offensive line need now with Dalton Reisner getting an extension. He's going to stick around, so their front 5 is basically set. Caleb Downs, you're right, is the dream pick here. They need leaders in the middle of their defense. I think they can do that at linebacker in free agency. You get Downs here at 10 overall. I think you're making a really good pick.
All right, before we move on to number 11, every week on Draft Risers, we're highlighting players that are climbing up draft boards as teams get a little deeper into the evaluation process, like they just did this past week at the Combine. These guys are rising because decision makers are more confident in the full profile, not just chasing certain traits. Sonny Styles has been our draft riser over the last week. He goes number 5 overall here in this mock draft of the New York Giants. And the reasons why, well, they're on the screen right there. 4.46 40-yard dash, 43.5-inch vert, 135-inch broad jump. Incredibly quick in the agility drills as well, in the 3-cone and the shuttle. And all of that shows up in his game tape, one of the best game tapes that you will watch of any prospect this season. When you're trying to identify risers like that, it's not about guessing. It's about having better tools, better data, and a better process. That same approach applies when you are making decisions about your own money as well. If you want to make smarter picks with your portfolio, Tasty Trade gives you the advanced tools and data to do so. You guys can trade stocks, options, futures, and so much more all in one platform. Tasty Trade offers low commissions, including a $10 cap per leg on option trades, so you can keep more of what you earn. The platform includes back testing and risk analysis tools to help you plan ahead and manage risk. Traders can use features like active trade mode, one-click trading, and smart order tracking. Tasty Trade also offers dozens of educational courses that you can access with your free account. Visit tastytrade.com/PFF today. Tasty Trade Incorporated is a registered broker-dealer and a member of FINRA, NFA, and SIPC. All right, 11, Miami Dolphins.
I think I got two choices here. I'm going either wide receiver or corner, and obviously, again, we didn't see Lemon or Tyson test, and there's concerns, obviously, with Tyson and the injuries, and I still think, as we know, Jeff Hafley is going to want to build this defense, and the secondary's been a problem the last couple of years, especially that cornerback spot. I'm going to go with the top corner on the board, Mansour Delane from LSU. I know this is a pick we've made a lot, but he was unbelievable this year at LSU. Only allowed 14 catches all season, 90.7 coverage grade, really good in man coverage. I think Jeff Hafley's really going to covet that, and he never had a top-tier corner out there in Green Bay in the couple of years. He was a defensive coordinator, so I do think he's going to try to build that room, build this secondary, and build this defense from the back end forward. If they want more defensive line depth, I think they can get it later in the draft. If they want interior offensive line help, I think they can get it on day 2 later in the draft. But a top-tier corner like Mansour Delane, this is a perfect opportunity for the Dolphins to take him. That's where I'm going. It's probably a pick we're going to continue to make a lot, but I think it's just a really good fit that he can try to be CB1 for them.
I wonder if they lean more towards the trenches, if they have the opportunity to, of course. I don't know if that manifested here really in this mock, but if they have the opportunity to, because Jeff Hafley talked about that a ton, right? Getting a lot better and more physical in the trenches. And when you look at the edge rushers specifically, yeah, they have Chop Robinson, but that's kind of it after that. I mean, they moved on from Bradley Chubb. They traded away Jalen Phillips, and so it's kind of Chop Robinson, and I wonder if they'll look maybe at the edge rusher spots if they think that anybody is worthy of that. But certainly Delane makes the cornerback room a lot better. Dallas Cowboys up at number 12. I'm going to take Dylan Thieneman.
Yeah, makes sense.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I'm taking Dylan Thieneman here. Insane athleticism that he confirmed at the Combine this past week, but that range that he has in both run defense and coverage is incredible, man. It's just unbelievable the type of playmaker that he is. You guys, I've listened to this on your show over the last couple of years, talk about how great of a deep coverage defender he was when he was at Purdue, certainly the first year. I would say like the same talent the second year. They just were deploying him a little bit differently, but this past year at Oregon, they really put him sort of in the middle of the field, and they just let him hunt. They let him use his instincts. Okay, if he thought that he needed to retreat a little bit, be more of a pass coverage player on one play, or if he really needed to attack the ball, the instincts, the range, the athleticism, everything was fantastic. And the Cowboys have been missing a impact deep safety for a long time. And so Dylan Thieneman, I think, immediately becomes that impact type of a player. So I'm going to take him here at number 12.
I love it. I mean, he was one of the best. I thought he was the best safety in college football this past year. I don't think his athletic testing at the combo is really that much of a surprise to most people when you watch his tape, because I mentioned before, his freshman year at Purdue, man, the range he had at free safety, playing a lot of cover one in that defense. He had like 6 interceptions last year, and a lot of them were him just flying across the field to make picks. So mentally, he's one of the fastest players in this draft, and physically, he's one of the fastest players in this draft. That's usually a great combination to have a really fruitful career at safety.
Absolutely agree. I think it's a perfect fit. I think that the Cowboys' new defensive coordinator, Christian Parker, I think is going to absolutely love Thieneman. I think he will be available there at 12. If Caleb Downs were to drop to them, I think they would go in that direction. But you're right. Both Cincinnati and Miami, I think, would be seriously considering Downs. But Thieneman is a terrific alternative. He can do anything you want in your defense.
All right. Los Angeles Rams. Couple players I'm considering here. I think I'm going to go with Jermod McCoy, but I did consider Spencer Fano with this pick because I do think they could use help at offensive line. I still think Spencer Fano deserves a shot at right tackle. I know the arm length wasn't great for him there, but I still think he deserves a shot there, but I'm not taking him here. I'm taking Jermod McCoy. More concerns, I think, for him too, right? With the knee injury, didn't play at all this past year. Obviously, didn't test at all at the combine either. So this torn ACL that he suffered last January is clearly still hampering him right now. So there's there's some concerns with Jermon McCoy, but I still think this Rams team, with Stafford coming back for another year after fresh off his first MVP, they're in win-now mode. I think their biggest need still is at corner. I get there are concerns with McCoy with his medicals, but as long as those check out for him, I think he's still worth a top 15 pick in the draft at the very least. So I think the Rams here, if the medicals check out, he would be a great pick for them at 13.
I think, the only thing I wonder, do we now think it's possible that Avion Terrell goes ahead of McCoy? Because we saw this last year with Will Johnson and with Ben Morrison, both of them dropping to the second round. I'm not saying McCoy will drop all the way to the second round, but with corner medicals, it feels like they're taking a hit right now more than anybody else is. Is there a shot that this 13th pick could be same position, different player with Terrell, who we know is healthy and also had a pretty good combine for himself?
I think so. Unfortunately, I love McCoy. His 20, I've said this so many times before, his 24 tape is better than anybody's 2025 tape. Like, I think he is CB1 in this class when it comes to overall talent. But, yeah, I mean, like we said, now, Will Johnson sort of had like a lingering foot injury, but McCoy not testing is bad.
Yeah, it's worrying.
McCoy not testing after 13 months of coming back from an ACL when... I'm not saying that this should be the standard, but we see players come back from like 8 and 9 months after an ACL tear now. So again, I'm not trying to like say that has to be the standard. He's got plenty of time to get things right. As long as the medicals of his knee checked out, like, if the doctors are like, yeah, I mean, he'll be good to go. He'll be totally fine. It'll be all good. Then I think that you can move on from that. But obviously, we're just not in those rooms. And so instead, you have to look at it. And we're over a year since he tore his ACL and had surgery, and he still wasn't able to work out at the combine. So I would assume that he's going to work out at the pro day then. So I'm hoping that we get some sort of athletic numbers on him. But
yeah, I'll stick with him here. I still have faith that he'll be okay overall, and I think he is a better player than Avion Terrell, so I'll still stick with him here at 13. But like I said, we're not privy to those medicals right now. And if the medicals check out and they're not very good for him, he's going to fall probably like the Will Johnson range, maybe to the second round of the draft. But I'm going to say right now, I still think he'll be okay. The pro day for him is going to be huge. I think he's got to do something at the pro day, just show that he's basically, has a pulse out there. But I think Jermon McCoy still is worth a top 15 pick. On tape alone, we'll find out more about his medicals hopefully later on in the process.
It's a good call.
Right,
Having
Dalton.
a pulse is good. That's good. All right, 14 with Baltimore. They need help in the trenches.
Is good.
Having a pulse is good most of the time. Baltimore needs help on either side in the trenches, right? They need pass rush help, but they also have needs at guard. So it's kind of really, for me, that decision there. Is it somebody like Akeem Mesidor? Is it Keldrick Falk? I don't know that Cassius Howell now is going to go this high after posting, what was it, the third shortest arm length of all time among edge players, somewhere in there, or at least since 1999.
Yeah.
I mean,
It was the shortest.
Oh, it was the shortest.
But then Caden Curry had shorter. So
wow.
Yeah.
it was the shortest for like 5 minutes.
The Jack
and then
Sawyer comp for Caden Curry is just,
redefining short kings for sure. I think I'm gonna go with a guy that, after watching the tape, I think is the second best offensive lineman in this draft behind Francis Malinois, and I think it's too good a fit here for me to pass up at 14. I'm gonna go with Venga Ioane, the guard from Penn State. I think this is one of the very few plug and play. I really feel like he's going to be very good starters. Hasn't allowed a sack in the last 2 years, 87 pass blocking grade this year. Athletic enough, solid enough run blocker that I can fit him into any scheme. And I still think even with Jesse Minter, a defensive head coach, coming in, you want to build this thing around Lamar Jackson, right? This offensive line has got to be better. I feel better about, again, this is a positional scarcity type thing. I feel better about the Ravens digging in on the edge group on day 2, kind of like they did last year, than I do about surefire starters on the offensive line later in this draft. I think Ioane is one of the surefire starters, at possibly Pro Bowler down the line. I really like him to slot into one of these guard spots. I'm not sure he gets by 14 to Baltimore here. That's where I'm going.
He's just such a rock solid interior player, fantastic in pass protection, great hands. I mean, I know people at the beginning of the draft process are maybe rolling their eyes a little bit about a guard interior player going this high, but I really do think that this is the right conversation for Vega, who I would agree with you starts right away in Baltimore. Of course, before free agency, we'll see what they do in free agency, but as of right now, he would start right away in Baltimore. So I had this scenario come up in my written mock draft over at PFF.com, and I am going to go with Akeem Mesidor at 15 for the Buccaneers. This is one of my favorite players in the draft. He is my edge 2 behind Ruben Bain, so my top 2 edge rushers coming from Miami, and the reason why is because they both play such a clean brand of football. They've got fantastic pass rush moves. They launch consistently off of the front foot. There's no false steps. There's no fat, if you will, to trim on their pass rush reps. Akeem Messidor used to be a defensive tackle and a nose tackle, so he's trimmed down, but he's still got that strength to him at 6'3", 265 pounds. So he's got the quickness, he's got the explosiveness, he's got the strength. He's immediately Tampa's best pass rusher on the edges, and I don't really have any doubt about that, as long as the medicals are good, because there's some concerns a little bit about his foot injuries that he has had in the past, and if they're going to linger on into the NFL. Obviously, he's 25 years old, so he's an older prospect. I understand that, but Tampa's need for an edge rusher is so dire. And yes, C.J. Allen is here on the board, and I think they could very well go with C.J. Allen, but with how well this linebacker class tested and showed out, not just at the Combine, but everybody who was at the Senior Bowl and the Shrine Bowl as well, you can get a starting caliber linebacker later in the draft, and I feel like Jason Light will know that part as well. So if they love C.J. Allen, could absolutely be the pick here in the middle of the first round, but to get a difference-making pass rusher the way that Akeem Messidor was able to help Miami get to that national championship game, I think he's an immediate plug-and-play type of a player, and I don't say that very lightly because I kind of hate that phrase whenever we're talking about college guys going to the NFL, but he's a ready-made pass rusher, and it's an area that Tampa needs badly heading into next season. So I'll go with Messidor at 15.
I think it's a reasonable strategy to use with the Bucs at 15, and it's pretty much from what we heard at the Combine, all they're looking at right now is defensive linemen and linebackers for this first pick. I'm with you. I think taking the best pass rusher on the board there in Messidor makes a ton of sense, and the Bucs feel like they're a playoff contender, and if they can stay healthy and get hot, possibly an NFC contender, but they need help in the pass rush. They can't exclusively get pressure just from blitzing. If Messidor can help their four-man rush, I think it is a really good pick.
Yeah, best pass rusher and a great run defender too, honestly. So I think Messidor is yes, 15 I think is probably as high as I would probably take him in the draft, because there was obviously he's older for this class too, but he was so good this past year at Miami. He and Bain were two of the best edge rushers in America, so I certainly get why you take him here at 15.
Absolutely. So you've got actually the Jets here.
Do you want to swap with 16 and 17 so you could take the Jets, or I think my pick you'll be okay with it?
Oh, I'll be yeah, you know what? Go ahead. Let's see.
Right,
let's see what you have here.
I'm going to take Mekhi Lemon.
I'm in on that.
Okay, Mekhi Lemon at 16 overall. Wanted to get the Dalton seal of approval right there, of course. But I think Mekhi Lemon, interesting podium session for sure at the Combine, and didn't really do much else in terms of testing. But other than that, man, he was the best receiver in college football this past year. And I think he and Garrett Wilson will form a really great partnership for whoever is the Jets quarterback this year too. So the Jets still have a dire need for a number 2 receiver, and I think Mekhi Lemon is actually the best receiver in this draft right now. So I think I'm taking Mekhi Lemon here at 16 overall to the Jets.
All right, so I've got Detroit here at 7.
Hold on, we've still got, because I don't think that you're going to take this player for this team, but we still have Freeling on the board, right?
Yeah,
correct.
We do. Can you scroll up? Like, is there a place where we would have gotten him off the board?
I don't think he's going this high. I don't know.
I definitely think he's going this high at this point. I mean, people could not calm down about him throughout the whole weekend. I don't have a first-round grade on him.
Near to why.
But the athleticism that he has, I feel like he's going super high. So I don't care. It's not like we're redoing the mock and starting over or something. But it's just sort of it's to this exercise. Like, I thought about him potentially for the Chiefs, depending on how they view offensive tackle with Jawan Taylor no longer there. I talked about it a little bit with the Cleveland Browns at number 6, but I eventually went with a wide receiver because I think you can get offensive linemen a little bit later. And I don't know how much they're going to need to tackle now after trading for Titus Howard. But after those teams,
there's a run here of teams that don't necessarily need, especially a left tackle.
Yeah.
So is this a trade-up spot for a team like Pittsburgh or the Browns or? I don't know if Houston would jump that far, although they probably should get aggressive if they feel that way. Is it do we get into trade up territory for him, or do you just keep waiting to fall? Because I think in this scenario, I would really think about him at 21 there to Pittsburgh if he gets it.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good call out. Anyways, I didn't mean to derail it.
Could do it at 17 if you want with the Lions. I know Decker's announced he's coming back, but like he's not going to be there for much longer.
Suppose I could. Although I think there's
Fano being there is
right.
Yeah.
I think there's a more. This is a pick
Yeah.
I've definitely made before, and there's a more immediate need on the interior. However, they're going to shuffle it, and found it interesting that some of the scouts were putting Fano through center drills out here in the combine as well in Indianapolis. So I actually am going to stick with another pick that I've made before for Detroit. I'm going to go with Spencer Fano. I think he fits the system really well. I think even if he moves to the interior, you've got a fun young interior. Whether it could be Fano playing center, Tate Ratledge playing center. That's already been talked about as an option. Whenever Taylor Decker is done, you could try to put Fano back there at tackle. Eventually, it's kind of that fluid scenario that I've been talking about with Fano with this pick. But I think Dan Campbell's going to love the run blocking. He's going to love the athleticism. He's got to get a little bit stronger, no question. Weighed in just above 310. If he could get up to 320 and keep that athleticism the way it is, whether he's inside or outside, I think this is a good pick for the Lions, one way or the other. The other thought would be an edge rusher, but they need more of that immediate pass rush type of player. I think Akeem Mesidor would have been an option. Keldrick Falk is not a proven pass rusher yet. Cassius Howell, I think, is going to be a guy that could drop with his lack of size. And then you're getting into guys like T.J. Parker or anybody beyond that, Zion Young. I'm going to go with Spencer Fano here. I know it's a pick I've made before per Detroit, but I think even on the interior, it makes a lot of sense for him.
Yeah, I agree. And like you mentioned, they've talked about some of the customization that they feel like they might have on the interior, moving Tate Ratledge back to center, and then if you have that guard need, it's very easy to plug Spencer Fano right in there, and maybe you have flexibility at offensive tackle as well. Maybe in the future, you're moving Penei Sewell over to the other side of the line of scrimmage, and Fano can maybe go back to right tackle. So a lot of things that could happen if you drafted Spencer Fano. So I do like this pick there for the Detroit Lions. So I am now up with the Vikings, correct?
Yep,
correct.
I think. Man, Terrell's pretty perfect for them to play off coverage in Flores' scheme. Really feisty as a run defender, too. Such a smart corner. Thieneman, we often talk about here at 18, but obviously he went off the board a little bit earlier. I took him 12 to Dallas. I think that's my best
course
of action here.
Thoughts on interior D-line? Javon Hargrave sounds like he's getting cut.
Yeah, I mean, you could go Cade McDonald at that point. Let me see. What's their interior defensive line depth? Let's see.
You've got Jonathan Allen. You've got Jalen Redmond. And
Redmond played really well last season.
I think it's a little thin after that.
Yeah.
Peter Woods? I know people have soured on him, but I was just watching the tape last night one more time. Peter Woods is still pretty darn good. I think he's now getting underrated when it comes to this class, but that'll be a discussion.
I agree, but that's more of an NFL projection kind of a thing. No, I'm still going to go Terrell. I think Terrell goes higher than McDonald and Peter Woods at this point, so I think the NFL is just going to be higher on him, and I do think he's a really good scheme fit for the Minnesota Vikings. So we'll go Terrell until maybe free agency tells me otherwise. We'll go with him here at 18.
Reasonable.
Yep. We actually have a Panthers fan in the chat really wants Jordan Tyson to do Carolina here.
Wow.
Would not hate that. I actually think, and Trev, going back to the Monroe Freeling thing with the whole Ike Ekwonu injury, I don't think Freeling's off the board here either at number 19 for Carolina. But what I'm going to do, actually, though, is take Keldrick Falk, the edge rusher from Auburn. I think he is a guy that would go somewhere in this range. I think he's probably be a top 20 pick in the draft. So he goes here at number 19 to Carolina. And, for a team that just took Nick Scorton last year and Princely Monmielen last year, two really good pass rushers, they still need a lot of help on the run defense, too. So I think Keldrick Falk, who could play a little bit on an edge rusher, a little bit on the interior as well, they need help all over that defensive line still. So I think Keldrick Falk, I consider Peter Woods here, too, and I did consider Jordan Tyson, just kind of be fun with it, too, for Carolina, but I do think Keldrick Falk will probably go somewhere in this range. He's got to get a lot better as a pass rusher. He's been 150th in the nation in each of the last 2 years in pass rush win rate, but he is one of the best run defenders in this draft right now. For a Panthers team that still needs a lot of help in run defense, I think Keldrick Falk would be a pretty good fit there.
I think. Sorry, go ahead, Trev.
I was going to say, anytime I draft Keldrick Falk to literally any team, every fan base hates him. So yeah. I'm whether it's Carolina or literally any team.
I'll fall on the sword here for you guys then.
Yeah, nobody seems to want Keldrick Falk. Whether it's the best pick or not for Carolina, I think we could debate that, but I do think that schematically it does make sense for them because he can play the heavy-handed 5 technique role on one side of the line of scrimmage, and then you have Nick Scorton and Princely Monmielen sort of as the rotational pass rush spot on that defensive line. So you do still need that. Now, are they going to pick that at 19? I'm not sure. Maybe they feel good enough about it, but I don't think, unless I'm forgetting somebody on Carolina, I don't think it's realistic to just say like, oh, we have Princely Umanmielen and we have Nick Scorton, so we could just play those guys on one side of the line and one guy on the other. Like, those are two of the same type of players who I just don't think that schematically it works. In my opinion, I think it needs to be a rotation of those two guys at the pass rush specific spot, and then you have more of a heavy-handed guy to be able to defend the run and hold the line of scrimmage on the other. So I do think the Keldrick Falk schematically does make sense for them.
I think Carolina is one of the most fascinating teams because you could go a number of different directions, and I think you could justify it. I think C.J. Allen would have been a great pick. I think Keldrick Falk makes a lot of sense. I think Caden McDonald and the inside, Freeling, like you mentioned. I think, I've even brought up as a sleeper, I think Kenyon Sadiq could be on the board there for them at 19 as someone who could really complement all of the blocking tight ends that they have. I think Carolina, again, we'll see in free agency which needs they fill or if they get heavy also into the linebacker market, kind of like Cincinnati. But I think there's about 4 or 5 different directions that they could go, and you could reasonably justify, okay, I understand what the vision is here that they're trying to fix. I think Carolina is really fascinating with that pick.
Dalton, you're up next.
Cowboys, 20. Cowboys. Dream scenario. Love it here. Very glad you passed on C.J. Allen here at linebacker. I get him at number 20 here. So to come away in the first round, if I'm Dallas with a Dylan Thieneman and a C.J. Allen, I've said the entire time, I think, look, the back seven's the biggest project. If they come out of here with a really good defensive back and a really good linebacker, as you have here with Allen, pairing him with DeMarvion Overshown, we know the instincts in the run game are outstanding. Coverage still improving, but can get better as we go here. I think this would be a home run draft for the Cowboys. Thieneman, if Downs were to fall to them at 12, if they were to take, say, a Mansour Delane, if he was there at 12, I think in one order or another, defensive back, linebacker, they come out of that at 12 and 20 with a group like this. I think you're looking really, really good. If you're Dallas, Thieneman and C.J. Allen is an A-plus first round for them.
I would 100% agree. What a haul that would be, especially because I do think that you could get some pass rush later in the draft. I know that they don't have a pick until the 4th round, but you might be able to trade up a little bit. Or I do think that there's some splash pass rushers you might be able to get at the beginning part of day 3. Our RG gave us a $5 super chat. We appreciate you, RG. I know that Freeling is the buzz right now, but are you guys' thoughts on Max Ionicher? I've just been looking at tackles for the Patriots. I'm gonna be honest. I like Ionicher more than I like Freeling. I think Ionicher's the bigger dude. I think he's extremely explosive. He's got a dense body type. He's tough to get around. It's easy for him to anchor. I think he can become a pretty good run blocker as well. I think both of those guys kind of struggle with being more of pass protectors than really they are people that can move guys off the ball easily in different kinds of run schemes. But both of them pretty good in pass protection. I think they're pretty close, but I believe in my film grades, I had Ionicher actually a little bit ahead of where Freeling is going into the NFL, specifically because I was so impressed with Ionicher when I got to see him in person at the Senior Bowl on day 2 and day 3 of practices. He just did not lose many reps, especially as a pass rusher, even in those one-on-one settings. So, I can see the potential with both of those guys, but I think Ionicher should be right there in that conversation of guys that end up going in the first round.
I agree. I think he could sneak into the back end of the first round. I mean, ideally, I would like a scenario for Ionicher if he could sit for a year and just develop, because he's so young in his football career, right? He hasn't been playing for very long. I think about places later in the first round, like maybe the Rams, if they want to sit him behind Warren McClendon for a year and they're not going to extend him. I think about New England. I think that would be the ideal spot for him. Sit a year behind Morgan Moses. Obviously, he's going to start him and Will Campbell at those 2 tackle spots, but if you could sit him for a year and he was the successor there to Morgan Moses at right tackle, I think it'd be a great pick for New England as well. I think he could definitely sneak into the first round as well.
Yeah, he's one of the best players at the Senior Bowl. I was really impressed by what he did at the Senior Bowl down in Mobile. And like I said, he's a really good pass blocker too. Still some work to do in the run game, get a little bit more play strength, but I like Ionicher too. He could be he's going to be a top 40 pick in the draft. Like Dalton said, he could sneak into the first round too.
I'm up with the Steelers now at 21, right?
Yep, correct.
Okay. I have not seen this before. I'm going to take Jordan Tyson for the Steelers at 21. He's just too talented. I think talent alone, I'd have considered him at 5 or 6 for the Giants or the Browns. If you tell me he's fully healthy going into this draft, I think you're considering him in the top 6 at 5 or 6. Talent, ceiling, I think he's got the highest of any wide receiver in this draft. Now, he's missed some time this past year due to a hamstring injury. He missed time the year before due to a collarbone injury. He missed time the previous season getting over an ACL or a major knee injury that he had. It was more than just an ACL that he had when he was at Colorado. So it was disappointing that he wasn't able to work out in Indianapolis. He talked about how he's still getting over that soft tissue injury of his hamstring. And so durability definitely an issue. And if the NFL sort of deems him to be somebody who's going to deal with injuries and not deal with injuries super well, responding to treatment, getting back on the field quickly, he won't be a first-round pick at all. But until I hear that as concrete evidence, I think he's too talented to drop too far. So Steelers need a wide receiver, and they need this exact type of wide receiver, I think. So Tyson at 21 to the Steelers.
I think the best part about that pick, if he were to get there, is the Steelers just don't have a player like him on their team, right? You talk about DK Metcalf, vertical threat. Calvin Austin, vertical. Even Roman Wilson, if he's healthy, vertical threat. I think Jordan Tyson's the best intermediate route runner in this draft, right? The Steelers just don't have that player on the outside that can win with technique and craft and route running. I think as a chain mover in that offense to complement all the other vertical threats that they have, I think he'd be a perfect fit there. I'm with you on that, Trev.
Yep.
All right, Max.
This one's tough because there is a player that I love here that I think would fit. It's Emmanuel Pregnon, the guard out of Oregon, who I thought was the best guard in college football this past year. I think he's well worth a first-round pick in this draft. I think he's up there with Vega Ioane, honestly, for best guard in this class. I think it is that close between the two of them. I'm going to go with Peter Woods, though, here at 22 to the Chargers. I do like some of the depth that we have in this interior O-line class, especially if you have some tackles that move inside to interior. So I think the Chargers on day 2 and day 3 of the draft can find some really good players, so they do need to address that need. But I think the value of Peter Woods here is too much to pass up for Los Angeles. I get the wingspan wasn't great for him. I get the arm length wasn't great for him either. But the tape over the last 3 years is elite at Clemson. I still think he's well worth the top 20 pick in this draft, let alone a top 25 pick here for Los Angeles. And for the Chargers team that only had one D tackle last year, placed inside the top 50 of PFF grade in T.R. Tart, they need help on the interior defensive line too. So interior O-line, interior D-line might be the biggest needs for the Chargers. I love Emmanuel Pregnon, but I do think the value of Peter Woods is too good to pass up here.
I think it's a good call with Woods, obviously, and the value you're getting. I think you could still argue he's the best interior defensive lineman in this class. And I think with Pregnon, like you mentioned, it's going to be an argument. I think the Chargers have trench needs on both sides of the ball. I don't think you can go wrong with either. I think even, say, a TJ Parker could fit them off the edge, right? Depending on how many edge players they can bring back. Is Khalil Mack going to be back? Odafe Owe, what's that going to look like? But either way, they got to get better in the trenches. So Peter Woods, I do think it is a fun pick in that defense. And we'll see what that defense now looks like with a new defensive coordinator. But certainly the Chargers need trench help. If they can fix that, they can be a Super Bowl contender. But it's a good call on Pregnon because we might get him in here in these first 32 picks.
Yep.
I'm with you. I think he's that good.
So you're up with the Eagles now.
I'm up with the Eagles now. Boy, oh boy.
Sadiq's still here.
Sadiq is still here.
I mean, is this where you go Freeling?
Oh, you can do Freeling too,
Lane
yeah.
Johnson, you know?
Yeah, could do it.
No more Jeff Stoutland, though. That makes me sad. Damn. It's a hard one. We don't know A.J. Brown's situation, the tight end situation.
It's hard to answer the A.J. Brown question.
Is it?
Until it happens, you know?
Reed Blankenship's a free agent, too, now. Is there an Emmanuel McNeil-Warren call out here? Could we do that? See, the problem. So
both Toledo. I think there's been 2 Toledo first rounders in the last 60 years.
Yeah, I'm on the same team.
And on the same team. Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome, actually.
We know Vic Fangio loves his safeties. McNeil-Warren and Makuba does sound kind of fun. And the top 3 corners are off the board. I don't think I'm going to reach down for another corner with a lot of the value here. This is a tough pick, actually, with none of the corners out here. Mm-hmm. You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going Emmanuel McNeil-Warren.
Wow.
Let's get 2 Toledo Rockets in the Eagles secondary. I think when you look at Reed Blankenship being a free agent and coming off being one of the lowest graded safeties in the league last year, Andrew Makuba, for as much as we like him, is also coming off a pretty major injury. So I think when you look at McNeil-Warren, you look at the aggressiveness, you look at the ability to play in a deep half, and then the ability to make plays on the football. That's the big thing. The forced incompletions, the forced fumbles, everything like that. I think Vic Fangio, if they don't find any veterans free agent safeties, I think he could be a really good fit in this defense. I'm going to go with it. 2 Toledo Rockets in the Philadelphia secondary. Let's do it.
Okay, before we get to the Cleveland Browns, our game plan of the week presented by Western Southern Financial Group, a game plan for your financial future. Game plan of the week is what Cleveland's doing right now to try to bolster their offensive line, making a trade for Titus Howard, and we'll see if I make an offensive line selection here with them in the first round, but they have to be better at offensive line. There's no question about it. Just like every team win starts with a great game plan, your future should as well. With life insurance built like a championship roster, Western and Southern helps protect you and your family so you can focus on winning today knowing that tomorrow is covered. Whether you're just starting out, building your dynasty, or looking to lock in long-term protection, their coverage options are designed to match your game plan. Visit westernsouthern.com/PFF to get your free life quote and start building your financial game plan today. Western and Southern, built to win, backed by over 130 years of helping people protect what matters most. Okay, this is kind of funny because I didn't take Monroe Freeling at 6.
Yeah.
Now he's still available at 24.
I already know where this is going. I just pulled it up during the commercial. Didn't even bother.
Him, right?
Yeah. I mean, at this point,
at this point, you kind of have to take him.
Yeah, you do. I mean, I'm a Caden Proctor guy myself, but I get it. I do get it here at 24.
Yeah, but if we're doing this more of a predictive thing,
sure,
which we should start turning the gears into it being a much more of a predictive thing. I mean, funny how it worked out, because if you would have taken Monroe Freeling at 6, you definitely would not have gotten Carnell Tate here at number 24. But now we're running through a scenario where you took the wide receiver, and I think it's much more likely than this that Freeling's off the board here. But the Cleveland Browns getting Freeling at number 24, I mean, at least you've got some sort of long-term option, in case you DeJuan Jones. I talked to some people where it's like, hey, they like DeJuan Jones, just hasn't been available for them, right? And it's been an issue with him being durable enough, him being available, and I think that's kind of sort of a very important thing for them. So we'll see ultimately what their offensive line needs are going to be after free agency, but this one's too obvious. I can't pass up Monroe Freeling twice for the Cleveland Browns.
I also think when you look at the way the board fell, right, if you would have done that earlier, to me, your only option here at wide receiver probably would have been Denzel Boston. You went receiver early, and when you looked at the board, even if we had taken Freeling before this, you still had a left tackle in Proctor. You still had a left tackle in Lomu. You had options. So I think you opened up the board more for yourself, because I think either of those two players, Proctor and Lomu, could very well be available. And even if the combination here was Tate and Proctor or Tate and Lomu, I think that's a win for Cleveland. The fact that we found a way to get Freeling here anyway is obviously a big win considering the way he's rising, but you gave yourself options here at left tackle, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think you got it right. I think it's still very realistic that the Browns go receiver at 6 and then wait on the offensive tackle class.
Yeah, I just, when you talk about building draft strategies, it feels as though they'll have more talent, like you said, to choose from if they go receiver at 6 and then offensive tackle, which I almost never subscribe to. I'm almost always a guy where it's like, hey, if you have the trench need, take the trench player earlier. Like, that's just the way that things go. But in this draft, it might be a little bit different. So it was worth exploring this possibility. But Max, you're up with the Chicago Bears here at 25.
Yeah, I consider some other guys in the defense here. I do think Jacob Rodriguez is worth a first-round pick now after that combine. I think he's proven that was his biggest question mark going in, was how athletic he was. So I'm not going to take him here to Chicago. I'm going to go with Caden McDonald, the D-tackle out of Ohio State, who I think is still worth a first-round pick in this draft. Obviously, the Bears really struggled in the interior defensive line this past year. Not a single Chicago Bear D-tackle had even a 60 PFF grade this year. I think it was one of the biggest needs they have, probably the biggest need they have on their team right now. I think Caden McDonald's worth a first-round pick, and I think he was the best run defender that we had at a defensive tackle in college football this past year. Obviously, he's a nose tackle, not going to bring much as a pass rusher, but I think he will be a great space eater in the middle of that Bears defensive line.
Absolutely owns the A-gaps, and he makes everybody around him better. This is the type of player that Chicago needs on their defensive line. I don't see any issue with this. I think they can focus on linebacker and safety in free agency or on day 2 and 3 of this draft. I think to get an impact defensive lineman like that, like McDonald, to complement the rest of their front 7 is a really good pick there. I'm in on that. Buffalo. How many times do I scream about Buffalo's defense over the last couple of years? Feels like
you're not going to take my guy here?
Which one?
No,
Denzel
Boston? He's got, wait, who's your guy?
Denzel Boston.
Guy? No.
Or Casey Concepcion, at least. No.
Unless we get an absolute steal here with one of the first 3, I'm not going to do it. This Bills team needs to make stops. I can find more, but I can find more receivers later
do
on.
It.
I don't
do it.
I think Joe Brady's going to do it.
I think Trev knows where I'm going with this.
J-Rod?
I need a leader in the middle of my defense. I need a leader in the middle of my defense.
He's also
Absolutely.
my guy. He's also my
For
guy.
all of the names we've talked about at linebacker, this was the best linebacker in college football this year. This was the leader of the best defense in college football, and the Bills need somebody next to Terrell Bernard at linebacker. They have needs in the middle of their defense at all three levels. Any of the safeties would be good fits. Caden McDonald, I would have really thought about, actually, if you didn't take him with Chicago. But this team needs a leader in the middle of their defense, in the middle of Jim Leonard's new defense. I'm going with it after a stellar combine for him. Jacob Rodriguez, Buffalo Bills, 26.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote this on PFF.com when I made this very mock draft pick here for the Buffalo Bills with Jacob Rodriguez. I'm running out of reasons to keep him out of the first round. He was one of the most productive linebackers, if not the most productive linebacker in all of college football this past season. He's got 6 career interceptions and 13 career forced fumbles, so he's got a knack for takeaways and the biggest plays that you can make. His measurables, okay, aren't that ideal. He's a smaller linebacker, but it's okay because he also showcases really good athleticism, which was a major question mark for him going into the combine, and he answered those questions emphatically. He had the highest grades in coverage and run defense and overall defensive grade of any linebacker that we had in the country. He basically tested like Luke Kuechly did, and he's like half an inch shorter than Luke Kuechly, and he was 10 pounds lighter than Luke Kuechly, which I'm not trying to say is nothing. Like that does matter and goes into it. But Luke Kuechly was taken, when did Kuechly get drafted? Top 10.
10, yeah.
Right?
Top 10.
Right?
10 overall, I think, 9.
So, we're not having that conversation. We're having a different conversation, but we're talking about a player who's one of the biggest difference makers in all of college football. So, yeah, I think that he's absolutely in the first-round conversation.
Agreed. Trevor, he has the highest graded season we've ever seen for a Power 4 linebacker. He was stupid good this year. I thought he should have got a lot more Heisman votes, and I would have made him a Heisman finalist this past year. I thought it was one of the all-time great years we've ever seen for a linebacker. And, yeah, now that he's tested out as an elite athlete, there's what are the concerns now with Jacob Rodriguez? I think he's well worth a first-round pick now.
Who's up at 27? Trevor? 27?
Trevor.
San Fran?
Yeah.
Well, we got options here. I don't hate it.
We do have options here.
Uh-oh.
We got options. That wasn't me. I don't know what's going on there. Definitely wasn't me. There we go. Thanks, guys.
You were like, it wasn't me.
Wasn't me. I need it known that I didn't screw anything up today yet. We got to pick 27, and wasn't me. Anyway, go on, Trev. San Fran. San Fran. What are you doing out in San Fran? You doing the fun pick? You go on Sadiq here?
Yeah, I mean, Sadiq's the fun pick, I think.
Oh, well, hold on, guys, real quick. David Montgomery just got traded to the Texans for a 5th-round pick.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I actually like that a lot, to be honest with you.
Hey, anytime that you can move on from starting caliber offensive linemen just to acquire another running back, you got to do it.
Hey,
sure.
You got to do it, right? Yeah.
That's how this works around here. Running backs still matter, Trev.
I am not saying that they don't, but
that takes off. I saw some mocks that Jadarian Price going 28 overall to the Texans. I think that takes that off the board.
Yeah,
now.
we're not doing that.
Yeah,
that shouldn't happen anymore.
I wasn't doing that.
I agree with that. Yeah, that's
right.
I'm between Sadiq and Boston because we're in a world where who's San Francisco's free agent wide receivers? I know Juwan Jennings is one of them, but
Ayuk won't be there.
Ayuk's not going to be there.
Kendrick Bourne.
DeMarcus Robinson will still be there, but Kendrick Bourne's a free agent. Sky Moore's a free agent.
You think Shanahan might like a Concepcion though, like an after the catch guy,
See, I've been in on that.
Could play a little bit of the Debo role. I mean, he's not as big as Debo, obviously, but be that versatile chess piece for Shanahan.
Yeah, I don't hate the idea of it. It kind of just depends on how good of a receiver you think he is, because I think that the size and fluidity that Denzel Boston has is more rare.
Agreed. Yeah, I think Boston's a better player, but I think it's an option.
And I think the other thing, there's a number on there that intrigues me that really was Juwan Jennings' role in this offense, that 89.7 receiving grade against man coverage. Boston is one of the best players, if not the best player in this class against man-to-man coverage, and that's really the Juwan Jennings role. That's the role that he's filled when teams get in press man coverage against San Francisco. It was either George Kittle, because he's the ultimate mismatch, or it was Juwan Jennings out there on the outside. I think if you want a direct replacement for Jennings, it's Boston. If you want the after-the-catch threat that we're used to, then it's KC. But I also have Boston one spot ahead of KC on my board. So
I'll go Denzel Boston. I'm going to take Denzel Boston here for the Niners at 27.
All right.
So now the Texans are back up.
Yeah, I am taking I will be going with Emmanuel Pregnon here.
Oh, there we go.
The guard out of
Pick
Oregon.
your O-lineman.
Yeah, I think he is so freaking good, man. I like him more than the tackles that are available right now too. So, Caden Proctor's actually, you know what? I forgot Caden Proctor's on the board.
Oh, here he goes. Oh, he's flip-flopping. Oh, here we go.
Hold on. I'm looking at her board.
You're very lucky.
I totally forgot.
You're very
Caden
lucky,
Proctor's
as sure as you
still
were, that I
there.
didn't hit the button, because I could have hit the button. I could have done it and made you look real bad.
I handed the card in to Goodell. I handed the card in to Goodell, and then I tackled Goodell before he got to the podium, so I just did right there. No, I'm going with Caden Proctor. I actually totally forgot he's on the board.
Wow.
I love Caden Proctor, man. I thought he was so good this past year at Alabama as their left tackle. He could play on the interior, too, for them, which is honestly still a need for Houston. So whether it be a tackle, whether it be at guard, whatever, Caden Proctor can do it for Houston. And he, like I said, you look at those grades right there, 80+ in run blocking and pass blocking. It felt like he finally put his elite tools together this past year. He got down to 350 at the combine. Still wanted to get down even more to like maybe 340, even more. I think he could be even better. But yeah, Caden Proctor was so good this past year at Alabama. I think he's worth probably top 20, top 25 picks. So here at 28, I think it's a little bit of a steal here for Houston.
I think it can definitely work with Nick Caley in the duo schemes, and tackle is much more open now all of a sudden. With Titus Howard gone, they might feel the need to take a tackle over a guy like Pregnon, who I would love for just about any team who takes him, but now we have a real right tackle situation here in Houston too.
Juice Scruggs also in that deal, going back to the Texans. Or going to the Detroit Lions.
Oh,
as part of the deal, which I don't think Scruggs is very good, but it's I mean Houston's just completely just doing their offensive line over again like they did last year.
Yeah, fourth rounder and Juice Scruggs for David Montgomery was the trade.
Anyways, who are you picking here for the Texans?
So you've got
I got Caden
Proctor there. Now the Rams. The Rams are such a weird one.
Who'd you take for the Rams earlier?
We got McCoy, and we still went Jamard McCoy.
You go Ty Simpson here? Still here.
I could. It's the ideal Ty Simpson situation.
Yeah, it is.
Or do I double up at corner? Or do I just do something else fun? Do I do something else fun for the fun of it? Do I take Casey Concepcion for fun? Tutu Atwell's a free agent. Could upgrade there.
Well, in that case.
Do I take Kenyon Sadiq and we get in the Rams' next revolution is 14 personnel? We're doing that too? Could be a thing. Why not? Would it shock you, really?
How many tight ends can they fit on the team?
All of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it actually would shock me. Yes.
They were on 5 personnel. Just 0-5 personnel.
Absolutely, just 5 tight ends. We're working our way towards eventually just 10 offensive linemen being on the field.
Back to how football should have been.
Absolutely. Just go back to running the triple wing with Sean McVay and not Jared Goff, Matt Stafford. Sorry, I'm going back in time. Struggling.
Jared Goff running the triple option.
Just trade for Jared Goff back. Trade all the tight ends for Jared Goff and put Goff and Stafford both back there.
Someone in the chat said Juice Scruggs may not be good, but he has an incredible football name, and that brings trade value. I completely agree with that.
That's true.
Yeah.
Sell the jerseys, yeah.
If you think Dan Campbell didn't want a guy named Juice, what are we doing here?
That's actually a really good point.
Yeah. Juice Scruggs.
So hold on. The Rams have Tyler Higbee's a free agent. They have Terrence Ferguson. They have Colby Parkinson.
Reunite them.
They have Davis
Oregon
Allen.
teammates.
Oh, Sadiq and Ferguson.
Yeah, reunite them. Yeah.
Just for the fun of it.
I would go Ty Simpson.
So Sadiq can get 0 targets again like he did when Ferguson was there 2 years ago?
Correct. And then draft.
It's the perfect fit. It makes so much sense.
And then draft Jamari Johnson next year.
I don't care. Do whatever you want.
Take Ty Simpson.
I'm taking Ty Simpson.
Yeah.
I'll do the sensible thing.
Now I'm mad. Now I'm sad.
now you're sad. Oh, well,
Now I'm pissed.
I could do it just for... You're up next, Trev. If you want him at Denver, you can do that too.
I was going to take either Kenyon Sadiq or Eli Stowers, whoever was still left on the board.
Oh, Stowers?
Man, are we going to
sneak
Sadiq,
Stowers into the first round?
We're going to let Sadiq fall out of the first round then.
No, I'll take Ty.
No. I'm taking Sadiq if he's still there.
I'm going to take Ty Simpson because I do think this is the ideal scenario for Ty Simpson. I want him to sit for a year, and who better to sit behind for a year or maybe even 2 than Matt Stafford under Sean McVay and learning that system, as we know. And then we know Les Snead can build this roster around him, has already built one of the best rosters in football. I'm going with it. I'm going to take Ty Simpson. Best place he could possibly go is right there to the LA Rams.
Kenyon Sadiq. This is the Joker, right? Like this is the bring back the term that we had last offseason. that I think the Broncos wanted to try to make a bigger splash in, but weren't able to do so. This is the player where you're able to do so. He can play on the line of scrimmage for you. He's a decent blocker who has the ability to develop into a really nice blocker. Great pound-for-pound strength. We saw the explosiveness and what he could be in the receiving grade game, although he's not as natural as some of these other tight ends that have gone in the first round in years past, but I still think he could be a good receiver for you at that spot. So somebody who's got the athletic ability to bring a ton to the table, I think Sean Payton would love him.
All right.
New England.
For a team that clearly has no reservations about taking guys with short arms, as with the Will Campbell pick last year, I'm going to go with Cassius Howell here to New England here at number 31 overall.
Wow, imagine practice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
two of the shortest wingspans ever at both positions.
Did you see like that dinosaur meme that's been going around with like just butting heads without? Yeah. Well, listen, I still think Cassius Howell, one of the best pass rushers in this draft. Again, his arms are extremely short, and that's a huge outlier, and he very well could fall out of the first round because of it. But he's had 90-plus pass rush grades in 3 straight years now. I still think he's one of the best pass rushers in this class. Got to get a little bit stronger as a run defender. That's where I think the short arms really play a part, is in run defense. But he, I think, would fit this scheme here as an outside linebacker for Mike Vrabel. I still think he'd be a guy that, again, Vrabel took Will Campbell last year and started him at left tackle all year, and I think overall it wasn't a great Super Bowl for him, obviously. It wasn't a great playoff run, but overall, pretty decent year for Will Campbell at left tackle. I still think Mike Vrabel will look at a guy like Cassius Howell and say, listen, man, I know that guy's a football player out there. I don't care what his arm length is. So I think he'll take Cassius Howell here at 31.
I think I agree with you. They thought the same thing about Will Campbell. And by the way, like, just so we're clear with everybody out there, I think Will Campbell is still going to be fine. I'm still excited to see him at tackle next year. If not, I still think he's going to be a damn good guard at the NFL level if they move him into guard. Just having a little fun, obviously, at the top of that. So.
I was going to say, I don't think I've ever seen a player get mocked just for the sake of getting the practice reps.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really something there. But also Cassius Howell, he was the best pass rusher in the SEC this year. New England's edge rushers were bottom 4 in basically every pass rush metric. So a guy who can come in, even if early on it's a designated pass rusher type of role, I think that can help them a lot out off the edge. We know they have an interior pass rush. They got to get better on the edges of their defense for sure. That leaves me with the last pick here with Seattle. Certainly some options. Could go wide receiver. We'll see what they do in free agency. Could go in the secondary. We've talked a lot about that with their needs at corner. But you know what? I'm actually going to go on the offensive side, and a guy that we've mentioned multiple times already. And there's one need to me on the Seattle offensive line, and that's that right guard spot. I'm going to fix that. Low moving costs here with Emmanuel Pregnon from Oregon. I think this guy's a surefire starter. I think he should go in the first round. I think he's the second best interior lineman behind Vega Ioane, and it's really, honestly, closer than people think. As you mentioned before, Max, he was the most valuable guard in college football. I think he fits his own scheme. If they're going to, it sounds like they're going to continue to run that with Clint Kubiak gone. I think he would fit a gap scheme, and he's a guy who's very familiar with pulling and running a lot of counter stuff there at Oregon. I think he's really, really good. I think he's an underrated player in this class. I'm going to take Pregnon to fill in that right guard spot in Seattle at number 32.
I like it. Just trying to keep that strength of the team. Well, I mean, if some people might look, I think the offensive line was playing really great cohesively together down the stretch, obviously as Super Bowl champions. But, man, you continue to get ahead of things on the offensive line, so hopefully you don't have to panic in the future with any sort of re-signings or big-time team needs. I think Pregnon is perfect for what the Seahawks like to run, even post-Kubiak. I think that is going to be the case. There we go, folks. Brand new, post-combine, first-round mock drafts, courtesy of the three of us. Let us know what you thought. Best way to do that, of course, in the comment section. While you're there, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the other videos that we have, as we're going to break down this draft class as much as we possibly can over the next, month and a half, because the draft's a little bit soon. Draft's what, third week of April this year? I think it's technically the third week of April this year. So, man, coming up on it, about a month and a half after that. So, appreciate you guys watching. For everybody behind the scenes putting this show on. For Dalton Wasserman, for Max Chadwick, I'm Trevor Sikkema saying thanks for watching this episode of the PFF NFL Show. We'll see you guys next week.